Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Brandon, your trusted realtor, and I'm coming to you with another great episode. Today, I want to continue on the path of talking to you about the real estate contract. Specifically, I want to answer a question of when should I sign the real estate contract? When should I sign the contract with the real estate agent that I'm dealing with in another state to buy a property or buy a home or to rent a property or to sell a home? I'll cover all three instances, but ultimately it devolves down to one answer for each group, and I'll talk about that globally at the end of this video. Now, for you individual, if you're buying a property, the reason that you have that agency agreement up front is to establish what your rights are and what you are entitled to. Also, to get clear understanding about where the commission and the monies are being paid coming from, and what are the brokerage companies' rights and responsibilities. So also, that reaffirms that you are exclusively working with that real estate agent to help you buy a property. Why is this helpful and important? This is beneficial in two parts to the real estate agent. One, it establishes or really solidifies that they're working with someone and that you won't go to another real estate agent. It happens to be that the agency agreement or a contract is really an agreement between both parties saying that, hey, we want to work with each other. And if we're going to be honest, real estate agents don't get paid, especially when they're working with a buyer, until the end of the transaction. And what does that mean? That means that they're doing all the work up front. That means all the information they give you, all the access, all of the driving around, any schedule rearrangements, all of that stuff is being done on your behalf, absolutely for free. You get nothing from it. You get that years of experience. Now ask yourself, where can you actually go and someone who has years of experience and is a professional in an industry gives you upfront service for free? I'll wait. Very few places, right? So that's the reality. When it comes to having a buyer contract, real estate agents like to have that in hand so they understand that this person that I'm working with has the level of commitment. The second is it also confirms that you've really kind of established that pre-approval. The pre-approval is the first step in order to really determine what type of asset you're going to be able to get into. So that really establishes the level of seriousness for that. And then kind of that second reason is we have to submit, these agency agreements to our brokerage office so they can know that we didn't coerce our way into this transaction. So at some point in time, we do have to have the transaction. The most important piece is that you have to be sure that you understand what you're signing. I always include in my emails that please review the document first before you sign or initial. And if you have any questions, let me know so we can talk about that. It's more important for me that you're clear and then you sign than if you have any reservations. Now, let's talk about renting a property. If you are renting a property, should you sign an agency agreement? Absolutely. Again, we have to think about things in the nature of whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze, right? Think about things rationally. And as a realtor, let's be honest, you're a little bit more volatile. If you see something nice and shiny that's over here or over there or over here, then you're gonna go to that property. And it could be a situation that a couple things happen. Either A, that property does not pay a commission to that real estate agent and they've invested a lot of time and lost energy, which is primarily why you see a lot of real estate agents do not actually get involved in rental transactions. The second is they're looking to build a relationship. So that actually establishes trust. Most importantly, not establishing trust, that also establishes the negotiation of how the rate would be established. Now, in a rental agency agreement, there is a section that allows the real estate agent to not only charge a retainer fee, but also to determine that if a set amount of the commission. So for example, normally the commission is paid as a percentage of the rent. And in this case, if a percentage of the rent, let's say there, in some instances, believe it or not, in DC, there are people online that list their property and the commission is $100. And they can be really nice properties. Sometimes there are these construction companies that I almost called out a name. But they'll list and they'll have the commission as $100 or $250. Just one, insulting to even list that online. They're just generating some business. And two, what happens if you, as the client, like that property? Well, the agent has to accepts that amount. In some of those instances, there are agents who will build into their structure, into their own individual business plan, a cushion in order to protect themselves, even if you don't find a property. So the agency agreement is important identify up front kind of what the nature of the relationship is going to be. You don't want to start working with a real estate agent and get to the end and then they see that they're only going to get a $250 commission and then they're hitting you and saying, hey, I got to charge you 35% or 20%. You want to get that clearly defined up front so you know the parameters of what you're working with. There's also a section that identifies how many properties that real estate agent and the type of properties that real estate agent will show you. That's also going to be helpful to you and to the agent because it also forces you as the person that is searching for a property at least to kind of narrow your focus. Like you can look at properties, but that doesn't mean that it's a free for all where you go and look at all of these properties or you spend the time looking at 20 or 30 different properties before you make a decision. If you're actually serious about making a decision about a property, I can guarantee you and I can assure you, you don't have to look at 30 or 40 or 50 different properties, physically go into those properties to make that decision. That's just not something realistic that people have to do. It's a choice. And I think in life, everything is a choice. So those are choices. But statistically, realistically, 98% of the people that I work with and people who I've seen in the ecosystem, they go and they look at a property. They've done some evaluation online. We look at maybe 5 properties, 7 at the max, and they can make a decision based off that. Because you're renting. It's somebody else's property. You just want to make sure it's comfortable and the landlord is going to be responsive to your needs. Generally, it's the kind of overarching categories that I found with renters. Selling a home. If you're selling a home, it's 100% upfront that you're going to have to sign an agency agreement and you're going to have to sign a listing agreement. That's going to come in 2 parts. And that's going to be important because that agent has to establish what the terms of their operations are going to be. That establishes whether or not you want signage, whether or not you want to post your housing information online, whether or not you want actual pictures, whether or not when those pictures can be taken. Did you know that you can, as the seller of the property, you can also indicate or dictate the time periods that people come to the property and whether or not there are any restrictions to the property. So say, for example, if you list your property during a period of time of a holiday, then you have the option of saying, hey, I want to restrict the time period or access to the property on this particular day. You can also dictate in that agreement, or that sometimes, depending on the jurisdiction, the agency agreement will allow you to have things like security cameras or surveillance, or that particular brokerage might offer additional accoutrements. So for example, my brokerage company, when you list with me, I'm able to offer my clients a Real Vitalize program. The Real Vitalize program allows, based on the price of the property and the percentage of the commission, it allows an upfront allocation of funds to you as a seller. So that way you can use those funds to paint the home, stage the property, do some improvements. Let's say you want to get new appliances, you want to have a handyman come out and do some repairs, etc. All those things are options that are now available to you because you're able to list with me. So that establishes upfront really for sellers, and actually it's most important to seller because you know what you're getting into, and there's a financial piece for a seller. A seller will have to pay commissions up front along with other fees. It's good to get a seller evaluation of fees to understand what your costs are going to be, and that really your real estate agent should provide you a summary to let you know what those fees are going to be, and you will be able to negotiate your real estate commission. Now, the law does not make a prescription of what a real estate percentage will be, and that's something that you have to negotiate between the real estate agent, and I'll leave it there because that's where the law requires me to really leave it. That's a personal negotiation between you and your agent. So hopefully this information has been important to you. You'll see that the universal difference between these 3 categories is that the seller 100% is going to have their agency agreement and listing agreement up front. That is really the security that the real estate agent needs. They need to leave with that agreement in order to move forward legally with your property. At that point, if they don't have that agreement and something happens, then they are essentially trespassing. The other 2 categories, you can sign those basically at the end of the transaction, or closer to the end. Let's say you find a property and you get all of these documents at one time. You can get the lease or the rental application and the agency agreement at one time, and you can get the buyer's agency agreement as well as the contract to buy at one time. So it depends. When it comes to signing these types of documents, at the end of the day, one, you should always remember you have the right to terminate these agreements. These are contractual agreements that you have with someone else, and there's a section that outlines the termination of that. You should be getting value from both your real estate agent and the transaction. You should leave better than you came in, and in each stage of the process, be a little bit more informed. The second is that you sign these at any time that you want. Be sure to ask questions. Make sure you have the information that you need so you are the most informed when it comes to this transaction. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you. I know we plugged in a lot here, but take care. Until the next time, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. I am Brandon, your trusted realtor with the Realty here in the DMV and everywhere else. Take care and talk to you soon.